Okay, thank you.
Wir würden anfangen.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gustavo Kunst. I'm the product manager for the Readiness Check for SAP Cloud ALM. And today, together with my colleague Frank, we will present you what's new and also what's coming. Thanks, Frank, for joining me in this session today.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm also very happy to see that despite being the last session of the summit, there is so many people still in the room. Maybe because of the advertising that we got in the last sessions, could be. But I also think there is a good reason, because every time that we talk about transition or we think about transition from SAP Solution Manager to Cloud ALM, then we think about the readiness check, because the readiness check gives you the very nice and also the very beginning of the insights that you need to plan this transition. It could be that you want to move some of the capabilities from SAP Cloud, from SAP Solution Manager to SAP Cloud ALM, or even if you want to transition completely, it doesn't matter, or maybe you just want to explore if you are ready or what's there or makes sense to do it. The readiness check is there to help you. For example, or a very simple example could be, and I think it could be very challenging to find in your organization a simple person that can answer what exactly I am using in SAP Solution Manager completely. You probably need to ask several people for that. Good news is that the readiness check can do that for you, because one of the main important insights that provides is what you are currently using, not only from the data perspective, considering if records exist, but also for some of the capabilities we consider time frame, meaning that if you have not used something for the last 12 months, then we also consider that. And with this information, you can then see the availability status in SAP Cloud ALM. That would give you a very good insight if you're ready, or can you move, or you need to wait because some of the capabilities are still in the roadmap. This is something that you can also see in the readiness check. And the good news is that it's also very easy, because you just need to implement a node. With this node, you have a collector in your SAP Solution Manager system. Then you run the collector. In most of the cases, this collector runs in a few minutes. It doesn't take so long. In some cases where solutions are very big, it might take a little bit longer, but it will finish, don't worry. And then you can download the result of this collector and upload it in your SAP Cloud ALM tenant, or you can also do, or you can upload in SAP for Me. SAP for Me, it's also the public environment of the readiness check. You can use it. It's very simple. You don't need to do too much to do it. But if you do it in your SAP Cloud ALM own tenant, that's also possible. You might also see that there are some other benefits, because you can make use of the integration that exists between the readiness check and SAP Cloud ALM to select some of the activities and create directly tasks or user stories in a project in SAP Cloud ALM directly. Or also you can combine your transition project with the roadmap that Matthias presented today in the morning. That's also something that you might find very useful. But today is more about what's new and also what's coming. And there is something new, of course. Axel mentioned this briefly in his session, and you might already guess what is it about. Since already 2 months, we have this new dashboard available. It's about the selective data transfer. With this new dashboard, you can get the first insights that you need in order to prepare for the selective data transfer project. As you know, if you heard Axel's session, the transition of the data from Solution Manager to SAP Cloud ALM is expected to be a single-time event and not a progressive activity. So it might be good to make a good choice, for example, at the beginning, which branch and solution would be the source of the transition of the data, for example, because you need to select at the end one solution, one branch, and then you can also use a particular scope in order to extract the data and then upload it to SAP Cloud ALM. And this dashboard that you will see at the very beginning will give you the first insights about it. It's also interactive because you can select if you want to see the changes that these branches had in the last 6 or 12 months. That would give you the first hint which of these branches could be potentially the source when you consider the number of changes as a decisive factor. But we also have more details to show about it, because selective data transfer is not just about selecting the source, but also some activities that you need to do beforehand and afterhand. For example, when we jump into the details of this new dashboard, you will see that we structure the data in a way so you can have a complete glimpse of the content that the solutions that has been read from the Solution Manager system contains. We present at the very beginning in the left-hand side the list of the solutions that exist. As a first overview, you can see that we can see the last date of the change of when has been lastly changed the solution. Also, the total number of changes that the solution had in the last 6 and 12 months. And then, of course, we need to know more about the branches that contains these solutions. And these we can also see because we have access to each of the branches that each of these solutions contains. And within these branches, we will see that we have more detailed information that could be useful at the moment when you want to execute the selective data transfer. For every solution that we present, we also have a fixed solution data tab. This solution data tab will give you a summary of some of important configuration aspects that you need to consider, and also some usage or the usage of certain functionality within solution documentation that might be also relevant at the moment of the execution of selective data transfer. For example, we can see which logical or the logical component groups that exist within these solutions, and also if these logical component groups are set up to use sites or not. If they are being used, that means if they are referenced within any element, within any of the branches. You can see a summary. You can also see under the configuration tab the number of custom document types that are or exist and are actively being used within the solution, the content languages, because at the end you need to decide also which language will be the source to execute the selected data transfer. You need to pick one when you export the data. Scopes that exist within the solution, custom attributes. At the end, this is also important because you need to consider using tags for these custom attributes if you want to also move the values into Cloud ALM. And here we also talk about used, in this case, custom attributes. There might be several configured in the system, but we only show those are actually being used. Those that are not used probably are not relevant at the moment of the transfer of the solution. And as I said, we also offer more information specific within all of the branches. For example, we can see that for a branch, we show the different elements that are part of the several steps that are described in the selective data transfer process, and we show it in the same structure as it is expected at the end for this process to be executed. Within any of the steps, we show the different types of these elements. Of course, if the quantity that exists within this branch, and again, the number of changes in the last 6 and 12 months, because at the end, this might be an important decision factor at the end, at the moment to pick which branch would be used as a source. Important information also is regarding the roadmap of the selective data transfer tools itself, because as we saw in Axel's presentation, there are things that are already available and some others are still planned to come in the next quarters. So this information we also show here, so you can keep entering into the analysis and check if some if the tools that supports this process type is already available or not. In case if it's in the roadmap, you can navigate directly by clicking on the roadmap status to the SAP Cloud ALM roadmap and see exactly when it is planned to be released. And something that I think you will find very helpful is the total size of documents, because at the end we know that if we want to move the documentation, including the documents, out from Solution Manager to SAP Cloud ALM, we need to consider the documents, and this might be that you prefer to move them to an external DMS system, could be SharePoint or any other. If you plan also to use the BTP DMS service, that's also a possibility, but at the end you need to consider the space you need. And within this, the details page of the branch, we show you how much in total. Yeah, and also something that referred Axel is that we only consider the last version of the documents, not the full history. How much space is it being occupied by the documents? So you can use this information to plan and size the target DMS that you will use at the end. The steps also are considered, because if you are using focus build, the steps might be also in use, and you can see how many the steps are existing and can be transferred to the Cloud ALM project. But as we know, not everything is in scope of the selective data transfer. There are also some element types within the solution documentation in Solution Manager that are not part of the selective data transfer process. And that we also show. We show, of course, what is being used or exists within the branch. We show the quantity and also the changes that exist in the last 6 and 12 months for these elements that are out of scope. So this information, it's also useful to see exactly what is expected not to be exported at the end in the selective data transfer that for those elements that exist in your branch. And very useful information, if you heard, again, Axel's presentation, is which logical component groups at the end are being used, because when you make the export, then you would likely need to map these logical component groups to the system groups in SAP Cloud ALM. So here you can see exactly which of the component groups are being used. So this means that are referenced by any of the documents. So, yeah, this is what is new. And one thing to mention is that it might be the case that you have, if you have existing analysis in your system, you might not see the data directly. The good news is that there is a very simple step that you need to do in order to get the data. It's just implement the latest version of the node, run the collector again, and you don't even need to create a new analysis. You can use the existing analysis if you have it. Just upload a new version, and then the new dashboard will be there. But this is the first part of the presentation. That's what's new, but there's also more coming. And for that, I would like to welcome Frank again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustavo. Okay, so the next topic will be change and deployment management and the transition to there. And as you can guess, of course, we will offer you a dashboard. Before that dashboard, I want to motivate a little bit why you would need that dashboard. So we now heard a lot about the data transition and the selective data transfer, which is not available for change and deployment management. So there won't be any objects in Charm or in Focus Build, at least from the change management point of view, that we will transfer to Cloud ALM. Which means we need to go into a kind of a transition phase. And that transition phase looks like you can see on the slide. So we have on the one hand side the SAP Solution Manager, but the Cloud ALM being connected to the exact managed system at the same time. So this is something completely new, as for Solution Manager, it was never possible to, for example, have two solution managers or to have a Focus Build and a solution manager at the same time to manage one system landscape at the same time, right? So there was some kind of collision, and yeah, as we send some information from the managed system back to solution manager, that can only be one solution manager. Now the situation has changed. So with Cloud ALM, you get the possibility to connect both systems at the same time to the managed system, which will then, of course, offer us the possibility to perform this kind of transition. Which means the information from Solution Manager, you're running the project in Solution Manager for change and deployment management, well, since years or since decades. So all that transport information is available in Solution Manager anyhow. On top, as soon as you connect the Cloud ALM system and the push data provider was run for the first time, you have the information about the transports as well available in the Cloud ALM. So now the idea is that we phase out the existing transports which belong to the different projects that you run on Solution Manager and finish them until the last change of the project, more or less, was successfully imported into the productive environment, and only then, more or less, close the complete cycle on Solution Manager. At the same time, as we run in parallel, it is possible to already start new projects on the Cloud ALM side and to well, have first features created on the Cloud ALM side and as well, of course, use transports on the Cloud ALM side, right? So there will be the day when the last change is deployed into the productive environment using Solution Manager, and this is the day more or less when the Cloud ALM tool will completely take over. So there will be this kind of transition phase where you will work in parallel, and of course, depending on your on the size of your landscape, on the size of your projects, and on the complexity of your project, this transition phase will be short or will be long. But the overall strategy really is to fade out Solution Manager changes and in parallel start with Cloud ALM until the last one is finished, and then more or less completely Cloud ALM takes over. So for that practice, of course, we offer a dashboard, and we offer a special charm dashboard for the readiness check. So we will focus on the charm documents, and as Gustavo has already told you, we analyze from Solution Manager the objects, and then we will show it to you in this nice dashboard here. So you would get an overview on which capabilities that you are using in Solution Manager are already available in Cloud ALM, as well as, of course, which ones are on the roadmap, so will be developed quite soon. And based on that, of course, you could more or less find out a time slot, well, looking on the roadmap, what functionality you necessarily need and what would be a good time to shift over. On the other side, of course, not every project that you run on Solution Manager side must be very complicated, right? In the session before, we have heard that we have this triangle of volume, complexity, and criticality. And exactly in this triangle, of course, we want to find out which are the projects which we want to move first. As there can be, of course, really, really complicated projects like you run a focus build, full end-to-end, with documentation which goes in parallel to the workflow of charm, maybe even a retrofit system on top, and then you would use some other additional functionalities like repack, cross-landscape distribution, cut-over checks and stuff like that in one release. Of course, it's much more complicated than if you just would have a small, let's say, 3-system landscape that you would run for your BTP system, yeah, on Cloud TMS, for example. So to give you insights into how your overall Solution Manager landscape looks like and what you are using and what capabilities you're using for each and every project, we have put that into an additional cycle or into an additional dashboard, which well, looks like this. So first of all, of course, you can see the project types that you're running. So if you have release management, if you have phase cycles, if you have the focus build cycle, for example, and then, well, of course, the full list of all the cycles available. And on the details of the cycle, on top, of course, you can see then, in terms of volume, how many transport requests do I have on that cycle? How many changes do I have on that cycle? How many requests for change do I have on that cycle? Then not only number of transports, but as well number of users that have created transports, meaning how many people are working, developing on that cycle. So that's all the information that you will get to find out about volume and to find out which are the cycles which are maybe a little bit harder to transfer or that should be delayed to be transferred, as you want to start with an easy project, of course, right? So to test and to get a feeling on how the change in deployment management will work in Cloud ALM, you want to start easy. So you would want to pick, of course, an easy and a low volume project. So we said not only volume is important, but of course as well the complexity. So what we measure as well is functionalities used on that cycle. So as said, I mean, if you have a focus build cycle, of course, it would already be more complicated in comparison to if you run a simple phased cycle. But of course, on top, there are more complex cases. And the most important complex cases we have put into additional graphics here as well. So you could see, for example, how many cycles of your overall number would be using retrofit, would be using cross-landscape distribution, would be using documentation in parallel to running the change, so the focus build end-to-end use case, is using the standalone functionality of cutover, or have other stuff integrated. So this is as well not only shown in this kind of graphical way, but we will also indicate it, of course, in the details. Plus, you can then drill down into each and every cycle to even see more details. So, okay. So if you mark yourself on one cycle, we will really offer the full availability of well, information that we have gathered from the Solution Manager. So you would as well, of course, then have insights into how does my landscape within one cycle look like? So how do I run a lot of tracks within one cycle, which means, of course, that would be a more complicated release or a more complicated project in comparison to if I just have a one-track, three-system landscape. You would as well see exactly what kind of transaction types are used. So am I using urgent corrections? Am I using normal corrections? Am I using the standard change on top? Am I using a general change on top? And so on. So again, the more complex cases, of course, the later you should switch into that transition phase. And finally, as well, usage. So we would list you all additional functionalities that you can use on top of the normal workflow, like if you allocate objects to other cycles using the cross-landscape distribution, if you have a dual landscape and you would use the retrofit, if you use the cutover functionality to check before you would import into the parallel system in case you run a dual landscape, or all the other checks that we offer in our standalone functionality. Of course, following the roadmap, if you would want to switch a landscape which is running on a dual landscape, it makes sense to only switch as soon as retrofit is available. Like Moritz showed on the roadmap, it will be available hopefully next year. And then until that point of time, you could already start today transferring one project which is not using retrofit, but which is more simple. And then later on, as functionality grows, switch more and more projects, as said, until the last project, more or less, is fade out on Solution Manager, and you're only running on the Cloud ALM. So to sum it up, the idea is to really have the two solutions side by side for the full transition phase period. You want to have the Solution Manager from change and deployment management point of view in the lead until the last existing change document. Use the readiness check to find out which functionality is already available and which functionality do you really need by looking into the dashboard of the change and deployment management and find out what are the complex cycles and what are the simple cycles, and maybe for a simple cycle it is already ready to be used, and for the complex one wait a little longer until we really have reached more or less the feature parity between Solution Manager and Cloud ALM. So new features or new transports for those projects that you transfer are only created on the Cloud ALM side. And finally, as said, there will be the day when you close the last project in Solution Manager, and this is then when you have completely merged to Cloud ALM. So that's the overall plan from the change and deployment management. And we hope that with these dashboards, the decision for you to find out how and what to transfer makes it a little bit easier. So with that, back to Gustavo.
Please stay. Thank you, Frank, and also thank you, Valeria and Moritz, who contributed to build this new dashboard. It will be available very soon, so please stay tuned. As I mentioned before, when we release a dashboard, if you don't see any data when you open your analysis, you just need to make sure that you have the latest version of the collector implemented in your Solution Manager system, and then extract the data and upload it again to build the new dashboard. But there are also some other things coming, so let's take a quick look on the outlook. For the selective data transfer, we also plan to enhance the current dashboard with more useful information, for example, showing more detailed usage information within the branches. Exactly, could be for all the scopes that are being that exist in a current dashboard. How many changes and how many changes in the last 6 and 12 months. Also, we plan to display within the dashboard also which custom attributes that we currently show only at solution level. We want to show it within the branches itself. For next year, we are considering also to extend the scope. This is something that it's still work in progress on ideation to include additional data for the transition of test suite data, and might be also useful the discovery and also to show the availability or how ready is Cloud ALM for the supportability of the regulated processes or processes for the regulated company, what we also know as GXP. This is something that it's currently being working on. And of course, as always, we keep updating the content of the readiness check when it comes to the availability of the capabilities in Cloud ALM. This is something that doesn't require an update on your side on the collector, because we keep that maintained, and you will always see the latest status when you open the analysis that you have created. So with that, thank you for listening, staying. I know it might be late for someone, but thank you very much for being there, and also Frank for joining me today. And now we can answer questions.
Thanks for the presentation. I have a couple questions. So you mentioned when we are transitioning the files from, I mean, the files I have in Solman, like when we transition them to Cloud ALM, we have only the last version, right? So what do I see then in the version history? So it will be like a new created file on the Cloud ALM side, or?
What we show within the selected data transfer dashboard is the total size, and to count the total size, we only consider the latest version, which is the version that you get when you directly click on a document in the solution documentation structure, for example. But the history we don't read. To see the history, I think you have to click with your right mouse and see the history.
Okay, I mean, on Cloud ALM, when the file is there, it will be just created right now, or a newly created file. I don't see any older versions or anything.
No. You just currently Cloud ALM doesn't store files because it doesn't contain an own content server. You will see mainly a link. So when you click, it will take you to the file that links navigates to.
But no version.
No.
Okay.
No version.
The second question is, you mentioned, I think, on the future plans, this transition or of the test suite data. So we talk about the test plans and like whatever results I have, do I also, do you plan to have them also in Cloud ALM?
I don't know exactly what will be supported by, for example, Test Suite. I would like to include in the readiness check are, of course, all the insights that might help you to better scope. Could be what I'm currently thinking about is, for example, automated test cases that we know we have Tricentis included with Cloud ALM, and some automated test cases might exist already in Solution Manager, and as far as I know, there will be a tool that will support that transition, probably from Tricentis itself. So it might be also useful to see in the readiness check how many test cases or automated test cases exist to plan this transition. But always in the readiness check, we focus on information that helps to mainly scope and prepare for the transition itself.
Okay. I mean, existing test plans, which I have in Solman, that will not be transitioned to.
As far as I know, there are currently no plans to offer the migration of test plans from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. In a previous presentation, it was also mentioned that you have no plans to transition the change documents from Solman to Cloud ALM, right?
Right, yeah.
Is there any way or like any approach you might see if we want to really do that and really completely switch off the Solution Manager system? Because, I mean, for historical purpose, we have then to go back to Solman.
Yeah, I mean, you could, of course, have your own report that maybe generates, well, that reads the information on Solution Manager first, and then, well, I think in Q4 this year or in Q1 next year, we will have an API that can create features. So to use that API then to generate features and to, I mean, like create the ones from Solution Manager in Cloud ALM. But I mean, the best practice or the idea that we have is this transition that you have shown, that I've shown on the slide and in this presentation. So our idea really is, well, first of all, of course, not a big bang, right? So that you transfer everything in from Solution Manager to Cloud ALM at once, but in a phased approach, and as well work in parallel on the both systems for that period of time. That would be our best practice, at least.
Thanks for the inspiration for a partner solution. My question is, I have, for example, a customer which, because of bad processes, has 40, 50 cycles. And for sure, only 6 are really used. The rest is to be cleaned. I don't know. Do you plan to offer in this grabbing report also an exclude list?
Exclude list in terms of, I mean, what we will show is active cycles. So definitely,
yeah, they are active. They have the status active because you cannot close them.
Yeah.
But maybe they would destroy the information of the dashboard. So as we know they are not in use, we cannot switch them off because change documents are still open. It's really, it's not a nice situation.
Yeah.
Just create a list, upload it as select option, exclude, and say ignore them, please. Concentrate on the right one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would only read the ones which are used, and we can switch the time frame, right? Where we say which was used in the last half year. Does not work? So you would really need a manual switch off.
Yes. And exclude the possibility.
Yeah, we have the exclude possibility only on scenario level or feature level, but not exactly on cycle level, right?
No.
Maybe the task list.
We prefer. I think cycle is the leading entity, so we could think about.
Yeah, could be also that I can offer you for the moment a workaround, because all the lists or the table that you have seen, you can export to as an Excel spreadsheet. So filters are always useful. But I know it's just a workaround. We can think about something. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
That's the easy solution.
Yeah, it's a solution, not a workaround. Yeah.
You are speaking about using Cloud ALM in parallel with Charm. Does that mean that Cloud ALM can bypass the CTS switches? And how sure are we then from the security checks in Charm if we can create transports on another way?
So the transports that are created by the feature or that are assigned to a feature do not follow the CTS project methodology. So they don't have a CTS project, which means the transports created from Solution Manager still carry the CTS project ID and are still following that protective measures. And the ones for Cloud ALM are just in parallel not carrying a CTS ID.
Yeah, but the downgrade protection is only mentioned for transports linked to a project.
Yeah, but this is for the project entity in Cloud ALM. So, I mean, we only get the information about the project as soon as the transport request is assigned to a feature in Cloud ALM. Only then we get the information about the project, and then, like Moritz said, we can, of course, then, for example, calculate the downgrade protection if you want to import a complete bunch of transport requests from one project and you want to move to QA or to pre-prod. So it's always depending on the information that we read directly from the Cloud ALM. So it's no longer the CTS project ID that we will read, but we will read via the Cloud ALM tool where the transports are assigned to which project. So that's the information.
Just to add on your question, it's a very good point, absolutely. SAP Cloud ALM is not using and therefore not supporting CTS project switches. So to make an easy answer, you would to open up in case you have CTS project switches mandatory in your managed system, you would need to open it up. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Quite simple.
Okay, I think no more questions. Then, yeah, keep supporting us in the social network, and please don't forget to provide your feedback about our session. And thank you very much again, and see you next year.
Thank you.